Good morning, YouTube, and happy Pride Month. So, yesterday, uh, 2 days ago, if you guys remember from one of my very first videos that actually really blew up, is that I criticized Wizards of the Coast for not having any kind of setting books relatable to, Faerun in the Forgotten Realm setting. And I mentioned that they would also be releasing Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, or Van Richten's, or whatnot you want to call it. And I said I wouldn't get it. Well, I got it. I ended up getting it anyway because it looked so interesting. And I read through it. And mind you can still use a setting book from another game system and implement it to almost whichever game system you're using. So the chances of me using Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft for Pathfinder would be rather high. Needless to say, that is not why I'm here. I have already read the book, and I was incredibly happy with the book. And I'm just curious, hey, what do other channels think about this? And so I go to YouTube and I check out for reviews because I'm curious. And I stumble upon this video by Kasimir Urbansky, the RPG pundit, who talks about the dumbest thing about D&D's new woke Ravenloft. I discovered this yesterday, and it has 8,018 views, which is commendable. It has 655 thumbs ups and 191 thumbs down. And I started watching it a little bit, and I was like, whoa. Now, I am not protecting Wizards of the Coast as a company. Wizards of the Coast as a company already have big pants on. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They don't need some barely non-existent YouTuber defending them. But what I am going to defend is certain ideas. And I thought, rather than me sitting down, writing down notes to how to respond to this video, we would react together. I will pause, and then I will comment on certain things that are being said. Okay, cool, exciting. Let's go.
Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss of Internet Shitlords. And I'm here today, as you can see, I've got here a Ravenloft book. It's a 3rd edition Ravenloft book, mostly just because it's the only one I still have. I used to, of course, have the original module way back when, and the original box set of the setting.
You know what? I got an idea on how we can cut this properly so that maybe you guys, even though it's not a lot to look at, then maybe you can just join in. Give me a sec, I'm going to cut it. All right, maybe this will work instead. In that way, we can view this thing together. Let's go ahead.
But not anymore. I don't know where they've ended up. It's been a long time. But I'm here to talk to you in part about Ravenloft, in a bigger sense, though, about wondering just exactly what is the stupidest thing happening in gaming today. So I think that one really stupid thing that is happening in gaming today relating to Ravenloft, of course, is that you have game designers saying, we're going to strip everything you like about this game because we hate you. We hate the type of gaming that you like. We would put you in a camp if we could, right? We're going to forcibly make this game into something you hate as a way to punish you. Now, please buy our game.
I really don't understand what this person is on about at this point. If they are on about, for example, that they are a homophobic, misogynistic person, or a transphobic person, or a racist person, and that the game refuses to adapt itself to his racist, transphobic, or homophobic norms, or misandric forms. I don't know. We don't know anything. There is really no basis of what he's talking about at this point. So what I'm doing right now is that I'm just throwing out suggestions because I honestly don't know what he's talking about, and I don't think I've heard Wizards of the Coast even say that they wish for anybody to be in a camp. Let's go on.
Right. It would seem to me that would be a really bad sales pitch. That would seem to me, if it had been to ask me, if I, for financial advice, should I try to sell my product by saying, We despise you. We think you're monsters that probably should be eliminated. Now, please consider buying our product.
What the
Now, I
fuck
would
is he
say
on
that would be
about?
a bad tactic to take, right?
Yes.
But perhaps what's more stupid is that gamers go, I really hate what they've done to my game setting. I hate this wokeness. I hate this political correctness. I hate the people that they've hired that have no background in RPG design. I hate these people that they've put in there purely as tokenistic hires that are meant to be an act of aggression against traditional gamers, you know.
I'm gonna pause right there. There are so many things that I have to take into account for what this person is saying. If I'm gonna miss something, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm doing this really uncut by reacting to things. But let's go with the fact that he says that Wizards of the Coast and other gaming companies take in people without any kind of RPG gaming background into the company as purely tokenistic characters to support their company, saying, hey, look, we got this person right here. Sorry, I needed to cut there. I said something wrong. While that might be entirely wrong from what you're saying, definitely there are companies that do this for purely tokenistic reasons, but it doesn't matter. Don't you think that LGBTQIA plus people, for example, need some more representation in the game industry, which has already been a rather homophobic industry or misogynistic industry from the get-go, where big old cavemen like yourself think that, hey, any kind of form of progression in any kind of social standing point with taking in a black person into a company is a bad thing because it would be tokenistic, and it's just too woke for you. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me why that would be a bad thing. You say that none of these people have any kind of RPG game backgrounds. How do you know? Do you know them personally? They don't need to really have an RPG background. Maybe they have a degree in storyboard writing or whatnot. I don't know. There are many things that are American that I don't really understand. Please take that into account. But still, you don't really know anything. And I think that one of the coolest things that I have, like I've said before in the past, I have played Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games ever since 2004. And one of the coolest moments I have had witness is I don't play as a player almost ever, but I have seen or observed games where, for example, one of my longtime player-only people put on the Game Master mantle, or when someone who has never played D&D before in their entire life, or any tabletop role-playing game ever, put on the Game Master mantle. That's when really interesting things happen, because they don't have this tunnel vision that you usually get. No, this is the way things have always been. This is the way that things Dungeons Master should do. That does not happen. They find their own things and grasp onto it and give a breath of fresh air into the mix, which is a positive thing. And mind you, if you think that it is so fucking awful that a NPC is transsexual, homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, gender fluid, you name it, doesn't matter. Let's say you think that the fact that they put this character here is just so fucking bad and it's an attack on me as a gamer, then here's what you can do. It is a tabletop role-playing game. You are the dungeon master. You can do fucking anything. As a matter of fact, you can say, no, that character is not what the game writers designed this character to be. This character is just a straight person. It is a cis woman or a cis man. That's it. Your problem is fixed. You can still have your misogynistic and homophobic, transphobic, gay erasing, trans erasing shit going on, even with new game systems. That is the beauty, I guess, of tabletop role-playing games, is that you can do anything with it. And thus, your arguments for you being forced to adapt to these things just falls flat. You can just do about anything to make these things not apply. All right, moving on.
I hate the politicizing of all of these games, but I've got to buy the next product because, I've got all the other D&D books, so I will buy it. Thank you very much. That to me is monumentally more stupid than the person saying, I hate you, fuck you, buy my game, right? For the other person to say, you wish I was dead, I despise everything that you've done to my product, to my hobby, I'm going to buy your product anyways, And this is the dilemma in which we find ourselves. Because I've run into people already.
Being sexist, homophobic, transphobic, gay erasing, trans erasing, the duality of man. Unbelievable.
Who have said, well, the Ravenloft book, I've got to buy that one, but it's the last one I'll ever buy, right? Which sounds to me like an incredibly stupid thing to say, because the game is going to be crap. It's going to make a mockery of everything you love.
How is it going to make a mockery of everything that you love?
That it's been designed by people who despise you, but once again, the particular type of mental deficiency of nerdism has struck you, and you're going to insist on getting it just for completeness sake, right? Or whatever other reason, because you're a collector.
I myself have said in the past that I'm not a huge fan of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I have said that I think that Wizards of the Coast are using a toxic marketing strategy towards Dungeon Masters, where they withhold any kind of lore information and rules based on pre-written adventure modules. I have said in the past that I was not going to get, for example, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, but I ended up getting it. And the reason why I got it is because, first off, Wizards of the Coast and their writing team are fantastic. They can truly write adventures in a great way. They write down rules. When they finally write down their rules, they write them down great. And what you can do with a setting book is that you can adapt it to any other TTRPG system, or almost any TTRPG system. I have said in the past that I would not be spending any more money on adventure modules from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, even though I might play it sometime in the future, but now my primary obsession is Pathfinder 2e. But I guess I'm one of these gamers that are just bad. Well, I don't think that Wizards of the Coast hates me, because I happen to not be a transphobic, homophobic, misogynistic nerd such as yourself. Let's go on.
Because there's something fundamentally wrong with you in your soul, basically. Don't buy stuff from people who despise you and would want to put you in camps if they had the power to do so.
I agree.
That's a bad idea. It's a bad idea to give those people money, power, or attention, So you've got to, turn this around. And it is without a doubt that what they're doing with the new Ravenloft book, now that there's more information about it, I mean, they're admitting it. They admit it openly, right? In an interview in Polygon, the creators of the new Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the new setting book for Ravenloft, said, well, one of the things we want to do is get rid of these outdated tropes that are really offensive and replace them with high fantasy. And what the hell is this? So basically, you don't want Ravenloft to be horror anymore, right?
You don't want Ravenloft to be horror anymore? Wait, did he say that?
Basically, you don't want Ravenloft to be horror anymore, right? Specifically, you don't want it to be gothic horror, but you don't actually want it to be a horror game at all.
Okay, I'm going to pause there. I have played Ravenloft 3.5 in the past, a billion years ago. There are definitely some tropes that are not very nice in there, but I can tell you right now, you can still have horror while gay or trans erasure or homophobia or transphobia might be terrifying things. These are things that do not correlate into gothic horror, while misogyny is a absolutely terrifying theme and a incredibly real one as well. It is not something that ties into gothic horror, while stereotypes of how people that happen to be gypsies or whatnot are is a thing of the past. It is not gothic horror. What you're saying right now is that I need my misandry, and I need my homophobia, and I need my gay erasure, and I need my trans erasure. I don't want black people in my games. I do not want diversity in my games because that's not gothic horror. That makes no fucking sense. I'm sorry. That absolutely makes no fucking sense. For fuck's sake, are you saying that draws the line between realism for you, but you can still run around and fucking try to fight let's say a vampire lord? That's completely acceptable. But to see a black person in Barova, no, that's where I draw the line. That's not gothic horror anymore. Unbelievable.
You want it to be an exposition of multicultural diversity and gender fluidity and whatever else, and your particular agenda in a land full of monsters. But fundamentally, those are probably not really going to be bad monsters anymore, right? This is a basic problem. How can you write any kind of horror literature or create a horrific world if you don't believe anything is true or real, right? And you don't believe in the idea of goodness, of moral absolutes.
Wait, does that have anything to do with people of color, gays, or transsexual people being in Ravenloft? What are you on about, dude?
Because then you can't, right? You can't have Dracula being an absolute evil if you don't believe there is such a thing as absolute evil, right? If you don't believe that there's anything that's true, then there's no way.
They literally talk about this in the book, about that there are horror lords in each and every realm of Barovia, or nightmare lords. I can't remember it at the top of my head, but these people are legitimately evil. They are legitimately evil, and this little pocket dimension in Ravenloft is their torture, their punishment, their prison, but they still control the area. But they are genuinely evil people, and you can either have these reasons why this person is locked in here, or you can make up your own. But they are evil people, genuinely evil people, and they might not even know that they're evil. A great twist that one might do is that you might have the player characters being dragged into the mists of Ravenloft, and a paladin reaches out to them suddenly from the mist and say, "Come with me," and they'd go on an adventure, and this paladin tells them about this big evil lord that lives in that fortress over there, up on the mountain. The entire campaign spans around the characters try to get more powerful to get to this big bad evil person in the castle or the fortress. And when they finally come to the fortress, the big bad evil guy says, "You think that this domain is my own prison? Well, it is yours. We have done this battle plenty of times, and we shall continue to do it for millennia." Turns out that the characters, this pocket dimension, was designed for them, and they have actually been in this pocket dimensions for hundreds and hundreds of years, and shall be so for all eternity, fighting out this battle in vain, and then forget that the battle has been fought. If that's not horror, then I don't get it. If that is not horror, the fact that you were the bad person all along without even knowing it, and let's say that it has something to do with your character's background. Maybe they fought in a great war and they went on a crusade and they killed a bunch of people, and they did it for what they believe would be for a good cause, to rid the world of heathens, like the Crusades. And it turns out they were the bad person all along. A game that actually does this in a great manner is, for example, Dante's Inferno, or the story Dante's Inferno for that matter. So there is definitely plenty of ways to put horror into the game without even mentioning sexual orientations or gender or what race you are. You can do it if you want to, but what the module says is that these people exist, and they should therefore exist in Ravenloft or in any game setting, as they should. But yeah, moving on.
That you can justify, and in fact you would despise, a genre that is all about talking about the struggle between good and evil, because to you that would be oppression, and in fact that's exactly what is going on here, right? These are the bastard children of Foucault and Derrida who believe in nothing, and so they need to destroy anything that will stand out, and that includes the scary stuff that sometimes, it's funny because in the past, of course, there were some conservative types that didn't like certain parts of the horror genre because it was, it seemed to them to be in some way elevating evil, except that it, almost always the horror genre is about, in the end, what is good triumphing over what is evil. And that's something that these leftists have very much figured out, and they don't want that to be a feature. Of course, part of Ravenloft being set up as a game setting by TSR
Is it a poor right-winger that's starting to feel oppressed, my freedom? Do you remember or do you know of the Satanic Panic? When basically right-wing fucking nut jobs went out of their way starting to say that Dungeons and Dragons and almost all tabletop role-playing games or everything was satanic and therefore should be abolished. And they would harass people for just playing games. Have you heard about that? But that's not going to be something of the past. And that's basically a different video. I just wanted to throw it out there that you are not being oppressed, but the right-wingers are well known for oppressing people, especially within the game sphere. All right, moving on.
Makes it easier for them because the Dark Lords, in terms of canonicity, are never defeated, right? They're because you can do that in your own game. You can run a home game where your goal is to have high-level characters that can take on and kill some of these Dark Lords, which are really, really tough opponents, right? But in the next book, they're still going to be there, right? And so this is something that allows them to now shift this. And part of this is also that they see this as...
I'm going to pause real quick. The reason why these bad characters, or these big bad evil villains keep on reoccurring in books after book, iteration after iteration, is that Barovia, the Exist of Pocket I mentioned, the book says how many versions of Castle Ravenloft does exist and how many versions of Strahd von Zarovich exists. One does not know, but it could be an infinite amount of different variations of Strahd von Zarovich. If you want your characters to face up up against the first edition Strahd von Zarovich from the maybe from the old Ravenloft adventure, then you could definitely tailor your RPG campaign towards that blank character if you so wish. Or you can have the more flushed out 5th edition of Strahd von Zarovich. Either way. All right.
It's an element of Western imperialist oppression, right? In that same interview, the creator was talking about how if that you have some of these settings, like there's the one with Ankhtapot, the mummy. I forget the name of that particular domain of dread. Ravenloft was never one of my biggest settings, so to say.
That's not how you put it in the beginning, but go on.
Never get all that into the setting. But anyways, there's the one that's meant to be the classic kind of mummy story.
Mm-hmm.
And in this version, they're like, well, we're going to make it totally different. The mummy's going to look fabulous, and there won't be actually any foreign adventurers coming in to rescue the people from this mummy. The mummy will be there ruling, and then there'll be natives that are there too. And of course, this first of all is stupid because there have always been natives in the setting, right? In previous books done 20 years ago, there was talks about like there are good characters in that particular domain, just like there are in every native domain that are fighting against the evil themselves.
Which is exactly what they say in the book, is that there are still heroes within Ravenloft and its domains of horror or realms of terror. So what exactly are you talking about? And making the mummy beautiful, I mean, as a game master, you can make anything hideous. It's all up to you on how you describe things. Moving on.
But the problem is what they really don't want is for your adventurers to be outsiders that come to help these people, because that seems a little too much to them like imperialism, which they think is somehow wrong, even though they don't believe in good and evil. So, but it's perfectly okay for a mummy to keep existing as long as it's because it would be much worse. I guess the lesson of this is that it would be much worse for from their point of view, for a group of white guys to come and take out a mass murdering psychopath, dictator, than to just let him keep ruling, and murdering millions of people. That's okay as long as nobody's being racist by stopping him. Like, it's just so stupid.
I don't know what this person is on about.
And then of course, they've done what you can expect, where almost every realm has had at least one race and or gender shift, right? The Frankenstein equivalent in the setting, Dr. Frankenstein is now a woman. And you have, in
I'm sorry, is that a bad thing that Dr. Frankenstein is a woman? If you don't like it, you can make it a man. It's not a real character. It is your world. You can change things exactly how you like it. What?
Mordant, which is like the English Gothic ghost story setting, you have the Weathermaid Foxlow twins are presented now as being black. Right.
Is that a bad thing?
These aren't just random drawn characters or characters that came out of nowhere, right? They're on a fundamental part of the story of Mordant, which is very clearly meant to be, like 18th, 19th century England with ghost stories, and they're
once again, you think that? Do you think that it breaks your immersion to have black characters in your tabletop RPG game? Does that ruin your immersion? Because black people exist.
Are the twin daughters of two of these old family aristocrats of the setting. So we know who their parents are. We know they're not adopted, right? But just without any need for any explanation whatsoever, the new book race shifts them. Could you imagine if somebody tried to take in let's say the Asian type setting of the Domains of Dread, and presented a kind of a head monk of a secret order fighting the evil forces of the hopping vampires? If that head monk was presented as a white guy,
No, I don't see an issue with that. I don't see an issue. I would say that would be incredibly generic. I would say that would be incredibly usual to see. There are so many adventure settings where you have the occasional Caucasian male or woman stand out and be, the savior of the day. But, man, no, I don't see an issue with that. It's the same thing with you saying if I were to say, if I went to the dwarven city of Mithril Hall and I saw a black dwarf that was not a Durgar, then that would completely ruin my immersion. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Could you conceive of what that would be if he was like Kwai Chang Caine or Walker Texas Ranger? There would be very righteously.
Okay, I'm gonna pause this video. That should be about enough. I can't put myself through this anymore. To clarify, I'm gay and I'm married to a man. Happy Pride Month, everybody. You can the fact that there are people out here thinking that you cannot have a proper tabletop RPG experience with gay people or trans people or people of color being in your game is just completely absurd, especially since it is a TTRPG where you can just adapt the world entirely to your own ends, to adapt the entire world to be exactly how you envision the world to be. None of this makes any sense. This person is clearly a homophobic, misogynistic, racist, transphobic, gay erasing, trans erasing individual, which is a shame. Because I am rather certain that I would be able to have a TTRPG horror experience with this person, and they would still enjoy it with gay people in it, with trans people in it, with people of color in it. I could definitely host a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition scenario for him. I could easily host a Traveler scenario for him. I could easily host a D&D or Pathfinder scenario for this person. And I could make the horror work. But then the question is, would I want to play with someone like this? And my answer would be, no, I would not want to. I would not feel comfortable playing with someone like that, because there's a difference between real world horror that the book actually picks upon. There's a difference between player horror and character horror. What's terrifying for the player and what's terrifying for the character that the player plays. For me, what is absolutely terrifying, or, well, not terrifying, but tiresome and frightening, is homophobia. That's something I can relate to. For a trans person, I would guess that what is terrifying or frightening and uncomfortable is transphobia. I don't think anybody would want to play or spend any time with a person like this. I hope this person changes their mind, even though this video was released in the 10th of May. Once again, I am not defending Wizards of the Coast. They do not need any kind of defense in this manner. However, to claim that they put these incredibly talented writers in their staff for tokenistic reasons is silly. The new Ravenloft book is a great written book. I do recommend it, but you don't have to do it. If you want to do Ravenloft 3.5 or 2nd edition or 1st edition, whichever edition of the Ravenloft setting being released, then go right on ahead. But remember, if you think that Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, are doing everything out of the way to attack you because they're putting in people of color or LGBTQIA plus people into their worlds, because LGBTQIA plus people do exist, and you find that to be an attack on you, then maybe you should actually try and reconsider things. And if you don't like something, just don't add it to your game. That's about it. Happy Pride, everybody. Stay safe. And also to RPG Pundit, fuck you. Good day.